Hey guys, those are Weekend Vacations, or those would be TV. Probably that's where you're probably watching this video, and you're probably wondering why am I wearing 3D glasses? Why am I trying to look like Billy Zane for Back to the Future? Anyway, the reason why is because I decided to do this special video. I've been kind of in a 3D mode lately. I don't know why. For some reason, 3D movies are kind of appealing to me, and I wanted to talk about 3D films. I want to talk about the history of 3D movies. Sort of basically like a retrospective, so to speak. So, I might be able to do this whole video like this, with these glasses on, but I don't know, because it's kind of, well, it just depends on that if my eyes starting to bleed. If my eyes start to bleed through the fucking screen, I don't think I'm going to be able to handle this. So anyway, it's really definitely, these are the older school, more 3Ds glasses. This is where it first started, red and blue. Anaglyph, basically. Of course, through the wonders of Wikipedia, and wow, white screens just don't look good in these glasses here. Basically, it's not a good idea to look at things that aren't in 3D with 3D glasses. You can get kind of hard in your eyes. So basically, a 3D film. Okay. A 3D film or three-dimensional film, this is from Wikipedia, or an S3D, a stereoscopic 3D film, is a motion picture that enhances the illusion of depth perception. It was derived from stereoscopic photography. A regular motion picture camera system is used to record the images as seen from two perspectives, or computer-generated imagery generates two perspectives in post-production. And special projection hardware and/or eyewear are used to provide the illusion of depth when viewing the film. 3D films are not limited to feature film theatrical releases. Television broadcasts and direct-to-video films have also incorporated similar methods, primarily for marketing purposes. 3D films have existed in some form since 1915, but had largely been relegated to a niche in the motion picture industry because of the costly hardware and processes required to produce and display a 3D film, and the lack of a standardized format for all segments of the entertainment business. Nonetheless, 3D films were prominently featured in the 1950s in American cinema, and later experienced a worldwide resurgence in the 80s and 90s, driven by IMAX high-end theaters and Disney-themed venues. 3D films became more and more successful throughout the 2000s, culminating in the unprecedented success of 3D presentations of Avatar. So basically the techniques, so to speak, like the archetypical 3D glasses are like this. The modern red and cyan colored filters, similar to the red and green and red and blue lenses. Similar to red and blue lenses used to view early Anaglyph films. There are other 3D glasses like the ones like right here you get for your My Bloody Valentine 3D DVD. These are the red and the green, if I remember correctly. No, I think these are blue or purple and green or something. I think these are the red and these are the not the red and cyan. They're a different color. So basically, the techniques, stereoscopic motion pictures can be produced with a variety of different methods. Over the years, the popularity of systems being widely employed in movie theaters has waxed and waned. Though Anaglyph was sometimes used prior to 1948, during the early golden era of 3D cinematography in the 1950s, the polarization system was used for every single feature-length movie in the United States, and all but one short film. In the 21st century, polarization 3D systems have continued to dominate the scene, though during the 1960s and 1970s, some classic films which were converted to Anaglyph for theaters, not equipped for polarization, and were even shown on 3D and television. In the years following the mid-1980s, some movies were made with short segments in Anaglyph 3D. The following are some of the technical details and methodologies employed in some of the more notable 3D systems that have been developed. Anaglyph images were the earliest method of presenting theatrical 3D, and the one most commonly associated with the stereoscopy by the public at large, mostly because of the theatrical 3D media such as comic books and 3D television broadcasts, where polarization is now practical. They were made popular because of the ease of their production and exhibition. The first Anaglyph movie was invented in 1915 by Edwin S. Porter. Though the earliest theatrical presentations were done with this system, most 3D movies from the 1950s and 1980s were originally shown polarized. In an anaglyph, the two images are superimposed in an additive light, setting through two filters, one red and one cyan. In a subtractive light setting, the two images are printed in the same complementary colors on white paper. Glasses with colored filters in each eye separate the appropriate images by canceling the filter color out and rendering them the complementary color black. Anaglyph images are much easier to view than either parallel sighting or crossed-eye stereograms, although the latter types offer bright and accurate color rendering, particularly in the red component, which is muted or desaturated with even the best color anaglyphs. A compensating technique commonly known as anachrome uses a slightly more transparent cyan filter in the patented glasses associated with the technique. Process reconfigures the typical anaglyph image to have less parallax. An alternative to the usual red and cyan filter system of anaglyph is Color Code 3D, a patented anaglyph system which was invented in order to present an anaglyph image in conjunction with an NTSC television standard in which the red channel is often compromised. Color Code uses the complementary colors of yellow and dark complementary colors of yellow and dark blue on screen, and the colors of glasses lenses are amber and dark blue. The Anaglyph 3D system was the earliest system used in theatrical presentations and requires less specialized hardware. The Polarization 3D system has been the standard for theatrical presentations since it was used for Moana and Devil in 1952. Though early IMAX presentations were done using the Eclipse system in the 1960s and 1970s classic 3D movies, and in the 1960s and 1970s, classic 3D movies were sometimes converted to anaglyph for special presentations. The polarization system has better color fidelity and less ghosting than the anaglyph system. In the post-50s era, anaglyph has been used instead of polarization in future presentations where only part of the movie is in 3D, such as the 3D segment of Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, and the 3D segments of Spy Kids 3D. Anaglyph is also used in printed materials and 3D television broadcasts where polarization is not practical. 3D polarized televisions that ever displays only become available from several manufacturers in 2008. These generate polarization on the receiving end. Polarization systems. To represent a stereoscopic motion picture, two images are projected superimposed onto the same screen through different polarizing filters. The viewer wears low-cost eyeglasses, which also contain a pair of polarizing filters orientated differently, clockwise/counterclockwise, with a circular polarization of at 90-degree angles, usually 45 and 135 degrees. As each filter passes only that light which is similarly polarized and blocks the light polarized differently, each eye sees a different image. This is used to produce a three-dimensional effect by projecting the same scene into both eyes, but depicted from slightly different perspectives. Since no head tracking is involved, the entire audience can view the stereoscopic images at the same time. Additionally, since both lenses have the same color, people with one dominant eye, where one eye is used more, are able to see the 3D effect previously negated by the separation of the two colors. Circular polarization has an advantage over linear polarization, and that the viewer does not need to have their head upright and aligned with the screen for the polarization to work properly. With linear polarization, turning the glasses sideways causes the filters to go out of alignment with the screen filters, causing the image to fade and for each eye to see the opposite frame more easily. For circular polarization, the polarizing effect works regardless of how the viewer's head is aligned with the screen, such as tilted sideways or even upside down. The left eye will still only see the image intended for it, and vice versa, without fading or crosstalk. In the case of Real D, a circularly polarizing liquid crystal filter, which can switch polarity 144 times per second, is placed in front of the projector lens. Only one projector is needed, as the left and the right eye images are displayed alternatively. Sony features a new system called Real D XLS, which shows both circular polarized images simultaneously. A single 4K projector, 4096 by 2160 resolution, displays both 2K images. And on top of each other at the same time, it's a lot of words. Displays both 2K images on top of each other at the same time. A special lens attachment polarizes and projects the images. Thomson Technicolor has produced a system using split lens, which allows traditional 35mm projectors to be adapted to project in 3D using under 35mm film. This is a very cost-effective way to convert a screen, as all that is needed is the lens and the metallic silver screen rather than converting entirely to digital. A metallic screen is necessary for these systems as reflection from non-metallic surfaces destroys the polarization of light. Polarized stereoscopic images have been around since 1936, when Edwin H. Land first applied it to motion pictures. The so-called 3D movie craze in the years of 1952 through 1955 was almost entirely offered in theaters using linear polarizing projection and glasses. Only a minute amount of the total 3D films shown in the period used the anaglyph color filter method. Linear polarization was likewise used with consumer-level stereo projectors. Polarization was also used during the 3D revival of the 1980s. In the 2000 computer animation competition for DVDs and other media, digital projection and the use of sophisticated IMAX 70mm film projectors have created an opportunity for a new wave of polarized 3D films. All types of polarization will result in the darkening of a displayed image and poorer contrast compared to non-3D images. Light from the lamps is normally emitted as a random collection of polarizations, while the polarization filter only passes a fraction of the light. As a result, the screen image is darker. The darkening can be compensated by increasing the brightness of the projector light source. If the initial polarization filter is inserted between the lamp and the image generation element, the light intensity striking the image element is not any higher than normal without the polarizing filter, and overall image contrast transmitted to the screen is not affected. So basically there's a lot of different effects with 3D glasses. Like there's also the eclipse method, which with the eclipse method, a shutter blocks light from each appropriate eye when the converse's eye's image is projected on the screen. The projector alternates between left and right images and opens and closes the shutters in the glasses or viewer in synchronization with images on the screen. This is the basis of the teleview system, which was used briefly in 1922. A variation on the eclipse method is used in LCD shutter glasses. Glasses containing liquid crystal that will let light through its synchronization with images on the camera, television, or computer screen using the concept of alternate frame sequencing. This is a method used by NVIDIA, Japan D3D, and earlier IMAX systems. A drawback of this method is the need for each person viewing to wear expensive electronic glasses that must be synchronized with the display system using a wireless signal or attached wire. The shutter glasses are heavier than most polarized glasses. The lighter models are no heavier than some sunglasses or less polarized glasses. However, these systems do not require a silver screen for projected images. Sounds like a pain in the ass. It's a lot of fucking work. I mean, fucking expensive fucking computers and your fucking yeah. Liquid crystal light valves work by rotating light between two polarizing filters. Due to these internal polarizers, LCD shutter glasses darken this display image of any LCD, plasma, or projector image source, which as a result that the images appear dimmer and the contrast is lower for normal non-3D viewing. This is not necessarily a usage problem for some types of displays which are already very bright and poor grayish-black levels. LCD shutter glasses may actually improve the image quality. There's another one called the interference filter technology, which is what Dolby 3D uses specific wavelengths of, which is basically the same thing that Cinetopia uses. Which, if you don't know already, the reason why I have been having a lot of time lately is because they fired me. So, yeah, the more I don't talk about it, the better. Yeah, Dolby 3D uses specific wavelengths of red, green, and blue for the right eye, and different wavelengths of red, green, and blue for the left eye. Eyeglasses which filter out the very specific wavelengths and allow the wearer to see a 3D image. This technology eliminates expensive silver screens required for polarized systems such as Real D, which is the most common 3D display system in theaters. It does, however, require much more expensive glasses than the polarized systems. It is also known as spectral comb filtering or wavelength multiplex visualization. And they are fucking expensive. They're like $50 each. And when people fucking lost them or broke them or people try to, steal them, yeah, that was not cool. The recently introduced Omega 3D/Panavision 3D system also uses this technology, though through a wider spectrum and more teeth to the comb, 5 for each eye in the Omega/Panavision system. The use of more spectral bands per eye eliminates the need for color processing of the image that the Dolby system requires. By evenly dividing this visible spectrum between the eyes gives the viewer a more relaxed feel, as the light energy and color balance is nearly 50-50. Like the Dolby system, the Omega system can be used on wider silver screens, but it can be also used on film projector as well as a digital, unlike the Dolby filters can only be on a digital system with a color correcting processor provided by Dolby. The Omega/Panavision system also claims that their glasses are cheaper to manufacture than used by Dolby. The Pulfric effect is based on a phenomenon of the human eye processing images more slowly when there is less light, as when looking through a dark lens. Imagine a camera which starts at position X and then moves right to position Y, as shown by the arrow. If a viewer, and this is just a picture, which is just stupid, I'm not even talking about. Fuck the Puffery effect. Sounds stupid. Spectral separation, lenticular barrier screens, new systems without glasses. Early patents and tests. This is the history, more about the history. The stereoscopic era of motion pictures began in the late 1890s when British film pioneer William Rees Green filed a patent for a 3D movie process. In his patent, 2 films were projected side by side on the screen. The viewer looked through a stereoscope to converge the 2 images. Because of the obtrusive mechanics behind this method, theatrical use was not practical. Frederick Eugene Ives patented his stereo camera rig in 1900. The camera had 2 lenses coupled together, 1 and 3/4 inches apart. On June 10, 1915, Edwin S. Porter and William E. Waddell presented tests to an audience at the Astor Theater in New York City. In red-green anaglyph, the audience was presented 3 reels of tests, which included rural scenes, test shots of a Marie Doro, a segment of John Mason playing a number of passages from Jim the Penman, a film released by famous players Lasky that year but not in 3D, Oriental dancers, and a reel of footage of Niagara Falls. However, according to Otto Zukor in his 1953 autobiography, The Public is Never Wrong, My 50 Years in the Motion Picture Industry, nothing was produced in this process after these tests. Early systems of stereoscopic filmmaking, pre-1952. The earliest confirmed 3D film shown to a paying audience was The Power of Love, which premiered at the Ambassador Hotel Theater in Los Angeles on September 27, 1922. The camera rig was a product of the film's producer, Harry K. Farrell, and cinematographer Robert F. Elder. It was projected dual strip in the red/green anaglyph format, making it both the earliest known film that utilized dual strip projection and the earliest known film in which anaglyph glasses were used. Whether Farrell used color filters and projection ports, or whether he uses tinted prints, is unknown. After a preview for exhibitors and press in New York City, the film dropped out of sight, apparently not booked by exhibitors, and is now considered lost. That's kind of too bad. Historical, film is lost. Well, there's a lot of movies that are lost, and a lot of them actually they just were not taking care of the reels, and they just ended just deteriorating over time. So early in December 1922, William Van Doren Kelly, inventor of the Prismacolor system, cashed in on the growing interest in 3D films stated by Farrell's demonstration and shot footage with a camera system of his own design. Kelly then struck a deal with Samuel Roxy Raphael to premiere the first in a series of Plasticon shorts entitled Movies of the Future at the Rivoli Theater in New York City. Also in December 1922, Lawrence Hammond, later the inventor of the Hammond organ, and William F. Cassidy unveiled their Teleview system. Teleview was the earliest alternate frame sequencing form of film projection. Through the use of 2 interlocked projectors alternating left/right frames were projected one after another in rapid succession. Synchronized viewers attached to the armrests of the seats in the theater opened and closed at the same time and took advantage of the viewer's persistence of vision, thereby creating a true stereoscopic image. The only theater known to have installed this system was the Selwyn Theater in New York. Only one show was ever produced for this system, a group of shorts, and the only Teleview feature, The Man from Mars, later re-released as Radiomania on September 27, 1922, in New York City. In 1922, Frederick Eugene Ives and Jacob Leventhal began releasing their first stereoscopic shorts made over a 3-year period. The first film, entitled Plastograms, which was distributed nationally by Educational Pictures in the red/blue anaglyph format. Ives and Leventhal went on to produce the following stereoscopic shorts in the Stereoscopic series for Pathé Films in 1925. Wow, I guess Pathé's been around that long. I wonder if they were such a big dicks about, movies back then that they didn't know. Yeah. Like Cliffhanger? Zowie, April 10th, Zowie, they released a movie called Zowie, Lunacy, Runaway Taxi, and Ouch. Something called just a 3D movie called Ouch. Ouch! On September 22nd, 1924, Lunacy was re-released in the DeForest Phonofilm sound and film system. Is that named after DeForest Kelly? Oh, it's way too early. I don't even know if he was born yet. The late 20s to early 1930s saw little to no interest in stereoscopic pictures, largely due to the Great Depression. In Paris, Louis Lumiere shot footage with a stereoscopic camera in September 1933. The following year, March 1934, he premiered a remake of his 1895 film Le Arrive du Train, this time in angle 3D, at a meeting of the French Academy of Science. Two 30-minute Nazi propaganda films shot in 3D in Germany in 1936 were found in Berlin's Federal Archives in 2011. Australian documentary maker Philippe Mora is convinced that there is more unseen 3D footage not yet to be found. Philippe Mora also, I think he also directed some movies like Philippe Mora. In 1936, Leventhal and John Norling were hired based on their test footage to film MGM's audioscopic series. The prints were by Technicolor in the red/green anaglyph format and were narrated by Pete Smith. The first film, Audioscopics, premiered January 11, 1936, and the new Audioscopics premiered January 15, 1938. Audioscopics was nominated for the Academy Award in the category Best Short Subject in 1936. With the success of two Audioscopics films, MGM produced one more short in anaglyph 3D, another Pete Smith specialty called The Third Dimensional Murder. Unlike his predecessors, the short was shot with a studio-built camera rig. Prints were by Technicolor in red/blue anaglyph. The short is notable for being one of the few live-action appearances of the Frankenstein monster, as conceived by Jack Pierce for Universal Studios outside of their company. While many of these films were printed by color systems, none of them were actually in color, and the use of the color printing was only to achieve an anaglyph effect. Must have scared the crap out of audiences back in the 30s as seeing Frankenstein in 3D. Introduction of Polaroid. While attending Harvard University, Edwin H. Land conceived the idea of reducing glare by polarizing light. He took a leave of absence from Harvard to set up a lab and by 1929 had invented and patented a polarizing sheet. In 1932, he introduced Polaroid J Sheet as a commercial product. While his original intention was to create a filter for reducing glare from car headlights, Land did not underestimate the utility of the newly dubbed Polaroid filters in stereoscopic presentations. In January 1936, Land gave the first demonstration of Polaroid filters in conjunction with 3D photography at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. The reaction was enthusiastic, and he followed it up with an installation at the New York Museum of Science. It is unknown what film was run for the audiences at this exhibition. Using Polaroid filters meant an entirely new form of projection. However, two prints, each carrying either the right or left eye view, had to be synced up in projection using an external Selson motor. Furthermore, polarized light would be largely depolarized by a matte white screen, and only a silver screen or screen made of other reflective material would correctly reflect the separate images. Later that year, Noze Vagabond appeared in Italy, followed in Germany by Zum Griffin Na, You Can Nearly Touch It. And again in 1939, Germany's Sex Modell Rowan ins Wurschen, Six Girls Drive Into the Weekend. The Italian film was made with a Gularati camera. The two German productions with the Zeiss camera and the Verlin shooting system. All these films were first exhibited using Polaroid filters. The Zeiss company in Germany manufactured glasses on a commercial basis commencing in 1936. They were also independently made around the same time in Germany by E. Kostmann and J. Mahler. In 1939, John Norling shot In Tune with Tomorrow, the first commercial 3D film using Polaroid in the United States. The short premiered at the 1939 New York World's Fair and was created specifically for the Chrysler Motors Pavilion. In it, a full 1939 Chrysler Plymouth is magically put together, set to music. Originally in black and white, the film was so popular that it was reshot in color for the following year at the fair under the title New Dimensions. In 1953, it was reissued by RKO as Motor Rhythm. Another early short that utilized the Polaroid 3D process was 1940's Magic Movies, Thrills for You, produced by Pennsylvania Railroad Company for the Golden Gate International Exposition. Produced by John Norling, it was filmed by Jacob Leventhal using his own rig. It consisted of shots of various views that could be seen from the Pennsylvania Railroad trains. In the 1940s, World War II prioritized military applications of stereoscopic photography, and it once again went on the back burner in most producers' minds. The Golden Era, 1952 to 1955. What aficionados consider the Golden Era of 3D, not 1930, began in 1952 with the release of the first color stereoscopic feature, Moana Devil, produced and written and directed by Arch Oboler. The film was shot in natural vision, a process that was co-created and controlled by M.L. Gunsberg. Gunsberg, who built the rig with his brother Julian and 2 other associates, shopped it without success to various studios before Oboler used it for this feature, which went into production with the title The Lions of Gulu. The film starred Robert Stack, Barbara Britton, and Nigel Bruce. As with practically all the features made during this boom, B'wana Devil was projected dual strip with Polaroid filters. During the 1950s, the familiar disposable anaglyph glasses made of cardboard were mainly used for comic books, 2 shorts by exploitation specialist Dan Sonny, and 3 shorts produced by Lippert Productions. However, even the Lippert shorts were available in the dual strip format alternatively. Because the features utilized 2 projectors, a capacity limit of film being loaded on each projector, about 6,000 feet, or an hour's worth of film, meant that an intermission was necessary for every feature-length film. Quite often, intermission points were written into the script at a major plot point. That's kind of good. That's nice. Let's, give you an intermission, right in the middle of a major plot point. Be like, oh, you could just imagine that. Oh no, I think I figured out who the murderer is. It's intermission. During Christmas in 1952, producer Sol Lesser quickly premiered the dual strip showcase called Stereo Techniques in Chicago. Lesser acquired the rights for 5 dual strip shorts. 2 of them, Now Is the Time to Put On Your Glasses, and Around is Around, were directed by Norman McLaren in 1951 for the National Film Board of Canada. I didn't even know there was such a thing. The other 3 films were produced in Britain for the Festival of Britain in 1951 by Raymond Spottiswoode. Is that Roger Spottiswoode's dad? These are A Solid Explanation, Royal Liver, and The Black Swan. Royal River, not liver. James Mage was also an early pioneer in the 3D craze. Using a 60mm 3D Bolex system, he premiered his Triorama program on February 10, 1953 with his 4 shorts, Sundance Stereo, Indian Summer, American Life, and This Is Bolex Stereo. The show is considered lost. Another early 3D film during the boom was a Lippert Productions short, A Day in the Country, narrated by Joe Besser and composed mostly of test footage. Unlike all the other Lippert shorts, which are available in both dual strip and anaglyph, this production was released in anaglyph only. April 1953 saw 2 groundbreaking features in 3D, Columbia's Man in the Dark and Warner Brothers' House of Wax. The first 3D feature was stereophonic sound. House of Wax, outside of Cinerama, was the first time many American audiences heard recorded stereophonic sound. It was also the film that typecast Vincent Price as a horror star, as well as the king of 3D, after he became the actor and star in the most 3D features. The others were The Mad Magician, Dangerous Mission, and The Son of Sinbad. The success of these 2 films proved that the major studios now had a method of getting moviegoers back into theaters and away from television sets, which were causing a steady decline in attendance. The House of Wax is a classic, actually. It's good and even in 2D. It's just Vincent Price is just awesome. The Walt Disney Studios waded into 3D with its May 28, 1953 release of Melody, which accompanied the first 3D Western, Columbia's Fort Ty, at its Los Angeles opening. It was later shown at Disneyland's Fantasyland Theater in 1957 as part of a program with Disney's other short Working for Peanuts entitled 3D Jamboree. The show was hosted by the Musketeers and was in color. Universal International released their first 3D feature on May 27, 1953. It Came from Outer Space with stereophonic sound. Following that was Paramount's first feature, Sangaree, with Fernando Lamas and Arlene Dahl. Columbia released several 3D westerns produced by Sam Katzman and directed by William Castle. Castle would later specialize in various technical and theater gimmicks for such Columbia and allied artist features such as 13 Ghosts, House on Haunted Hill, and The Tingler. Columbia also produced only slapstick comedies ever conceived for 3D. The Three Stooges starred in Spooks and Pardon My Backfire. Dialect comic Harry Mimo starred in Down the Hatch. Producer Jules White as optimistic about the possibilities of 3D as applied to slapstick, with pies and other projectiles aimed at this audience, but only 2 of his stereoscopic shorts were shown in 3D. Down the Hatch was released as a conventional flat motion picture. Columbia has since printed Down the Hatch in 3D for film festivals. I know Matt would probably have fun watching the Three Stooges in 3D, the original ones. Any Three Stooges fan would probably, that'd be pretty cool. John Ireland, Joanne Drew, and MacDonald Carey starred in the Jack Broder color production Hannah Lee, which premiered in June 19th of 1953. The film was directed by Ireland, who sued Broder for his salary. Broder countersued, claiming that Ireland went over production costs with the film. Wow. They were even suing each other like crazy back in that day, too. Another famous entry in the golden era of 3D was the three-dimensional picture production of Robot Monster. The film was allegedly scribed in an hour by screenwriter Wyatt Ordung and filmed in a period of 2 weeks on a shoestring budget. Despite these shortcomings and the fact that the crew had no previous experience in a newly built camera rig, and luck was on the cinematographer's side, as many find the 3D photography of the film as well shot and aligned. Robot Monster also has a notable score by the then up-and-coming composer Albert Bernstein. The film was released on June 24th, 1953, and went out with the short To Stardust in Your Eyes, which starred nightclub comedian Slick Slavin. What a name, Slick Slavin. 20th Century Fox also produced their only 3D feature, Inferno, in 1953, starring Rhonda Fleming. Fleming had also starred in Those Redheads from Seattle. Those Redheads from Seattle? And Javaro. Crazy titles. Shares a spot for being the actress to appear in the most 3D features with Patricia Medina, who also starred in Sangaree, Phantom of the Rue Morgue, and Drums at Tahiti. Darryl F. Zanuck expressed little interest in stereoscopic systems, and at that point was preparing to premiere the new widescreen film system CinemaScope. The first decline in theatrical 3D started in September 1953. The factors causing this decline were 2 prints had to be projected simultaneously. The prints had to remain exactly alike after repair or synchronization would be lost. It sometimes required 2 projectionists to keep sync working properly. When either prints or shutters became out of sync, the picture became virtually unwatchable and accounted for headaches and eye strain. The necessary silver projection screen was very directional and caused sideline sweating to be unusable with both 3D sideline seating, not sweating. The necessary silver projection screen was very directional and caused sideline seating to be unusable with both 3D and regular films due to the angular darkening of these screens. Later films that opened in wider seated venues often premiered flat. The necessary silver projection screen was very directional, and I already said that. Later films that opened wider seated venues often premiered flat for that reason, such as Kiss Me Kate at the Radio City Music Hall. The few cartoons made in 3D had a cardboard cutout effect, where flat objects appeared in different planes. Because the projection booth operators were many times careless, even at the preview screenings of few 3D films, trade and newspaper critics claimed that certain films were hard on the eyes. Zoll Lesser attempted to follow the stereo techniques of the new showcase, this time 5 shorts he himself produced. The project would be called The 3D Follies and was to be distributed by RKO. Unfortunately, because of financial difficulties and the growing disinterest in 3D, Lesser canceled the project during the summer of 1953, making it the first 3D film to be aborted in production. 2 of the 3 shorts were shot. Carmenesque, a burlesque number starring exotic dancer Lily St. Cyr, and Fun in the Sun, a sports short directed by famed set designer/director William Cameron Menzies, who also directed the 3D feature The Maze for Allied Artists. Although it was more expensive to install, major competing realism process was anamorphic, first utilized by Fox with CinemaScope and his September premiere in The Robe. Anamorphic features needed only a single point, so synchronization was not an issue. Cinerama was also competitive from the start and had better quality control in 3D because it was owned by one company that focused on quality control. However, most of the 3D features past the summer of 1953 were released in the flat widescreen formats, ranging from 1.661 to 185 and I fucking care. In early studio advertisements and articles about widescreen 3D formats, widescreen systems were referred to as 3D, causing some confusion among scholars. There was no single instance of combining CinemaScope with 3D until 1960, with the film called September Storm. Even then, this was a blowout from a non-anamorphic negative. September Storm also went out with the last dual strip short, Space Attack, which was actually shot in 1954 under the title Adventures of Sam Space. In December 1953, 3D made a comeback for the release of several important 3D films, including MGM's musical Kiss Me Kate. Kate was a hill over which 3D had to pass to survive. MGM tested it in 6 theaters, 3 in 3D and 3 flat. According to trade ads at the time, the 3D version was so well received that the film quickly went into its wide stereoscopic release. However, most publications, including Kenneth Magawan's classic film reference book, Behind the Screen, state that the film did much better as a regular release. The film, adapted from the popular Cole Porter Broadway musical, starred the MGM Song Award team of Howard Keel and Katherine Grayson as the leads, supported by Ann Miller, Keenan Wynn, Bobby Van, James Whitmore, Kirk Cazanar, and Tommy Rawl. The film also prominently promoted its use of stereophonic sound. Several other features that helped put 3D back on the map that month were with a John Wayne feature, Hondo, Columbia's Miss Sadie Thompson with Rita Hayworth, and Paramount's Money from Home with Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. Paramount also released cartoon shorts Blue Moon with Casper and Friendly the Ghost, with Casper the Family Ghost, and Popeye, Ace of Space with Popeye the Sailor. Paramount Pictures released a 3D Korean war film, Seize Fire, filmed on actual Korean locations in 1953. Top Banana, based on the popular stage musical of Phil Silvers, was brought to the screen with the original cast. Although it was merely a film stage production, the idea was that every audience member would feel that they have the best seat in the house through color photography in 3D. Although the film was shot and edited in 3D, United Artists, the distributor, felt the production was uneconomical in stereoscopic form and released the film flat on January 27th of 1954. A string of successful 3D movies followed the second wave. Some highlights are The French Line, starring Jane Russell and Gilbert Roland. It was a Howard Hughes / RKO production. The film became notorious for being released without an MPA seal of approval after several suggestive lyrics were included, as well as one of Mrs. Russell's particularly revealing costumes. Playing up her sex appeal, one tagline for the film was, "It'll knock both your eyes out." The film was later cut and approved by the MPA for a general flat release, despite having a wide and profitable 3D release. Taza, Son of Chochis, a sequel to 1950's Broken Arrow, which starred Rock Hudson in the title role, and Barbara Rush's love interest, and Rex Reason, billed as Bart Roberts, as his renegade brother, was released through Universal International. It was directed by the great stylist Douglas Sirk, and his striking visual sense made the film a huge success when it re-premiered in 2006 at the second 3D Expo in Hollywood. 2 8 films, Phantom of the Rue Morgue, featuring Carl Malden and Patricia Medina, was produced by the Warner Brothers and based on Edgar Allan Poe's The Murders in the Rue Morgue, and Gorilla at Large, a panoramic production starring Cameron Mitchell, distributed through Fox. Creature from the Black Lagoon, starring Richard Carlson, Junior Lee Adams, directed by Jack Arnold, which is one of my favorite films. That's my favorite Universal monster, is Creature from the Black Lagoon. Arguably the most famous 3D movie, and the only 3D feature that spawned a sequel, Revenge of the Creature in 3D, followed by another sequel, The Creature Walks Among Us, was shot flat. Catwoman of the Moon, an Astro Picture starring Victor Jory and Mary Windsor. Elmer Bernstein composed the score. Dial for Murder, directed by Alfred Hitchcock and starring Ray Milland, Robert Cummings, and Grace Kelly, is considered by aficionados of 3D to be one of the best examples of the process. Although available in 3D in 1954, there are no known playdates in 3D since Warner Brothers had just instated simultaneous 3D/2D release policy. The film screening in 3D in February 1980 at the New York Theater in San Francisco did so well, Warner Bros. Re-released the film in 3D in February 1982. GOG, an Ivan Tors production dealing with realistic science fiction. The second is Tors' Office of Scientific Investigation trilogy of film, which included The Magnetic Monster and Riders to the Stars. The Diamond Wizard, the only stereoscopic feature shot in Britain, released flat in both in the UK and the US. It starred and was directed by Dennis O'Keefe. Irwin Allen's The Dangerous Mission was released by RKO in 1954, featuring Allen's trademarks and an all-star cast facing a disaster, in this case, a forest fire. So even before the disaster movies he did in the 70s, he was doing disaster movies. Didn't know that. Son of Sinbad, another RKO/Howard Hughes production starring Dale Robertson, Lily St. Cyr, and Vincent Price. The film was shelved after Hughes ran into difficulty with the French Line and wasn't released until 1955, at which time it went out flat, converted to the Super Scope process. 3D's final decline was in the late spring of 1954, for the same reasons as the previous lull, as well as further success of widescreen formats with theater operators. Even though Polaroid had created a well-designed telltale filter kit for the purpose of recognizing and adjusting out-of-sync and phase 3D, exhibitors still felt uncomfortable with the system, and turned their focus instead to processes such as CinemaScope. The last 3D feature released in that format during the Golden Era was Revenge of the Creature on February 23, 1955. Ironically, the film had a wide release in 3D and was well received at the box office. So, really interesting stuff. Of course, I wasn't born, and I didn't have a chance to experience the golden age of 3D. But I can imagine it would have been a really great experience because it was something new, something rad, something cool, something swell. It was probably a really swell experience for, people back, in the day, who might have grown up and, seen the 3D buzz. Revival, 1960 through 1984 in a single strip format. Stereoscopic films largely remained dormant for the first part of the 1960s, with those that were released usually being anaglyph exploitation films. One film of notoriety was the Beaver Champion / Warner Brothers production, The Mask. The film was shot in 2D, but enhanced the bizarre qualities of the dream world as induced when the main character puts on a cursed tribal mask. These scenes went to anaglyph 3D. These scenes were printed by Technicolor on their first run in the red/green anaglyph. Although 3D films appeared sparsely during the early 1960s, a true second wave of 3D cinema was set into motion by Arch Oboler, the same producer who started the craze of the 1950s. Using a new technology called Space Vision 3D, stereoscopic films were printed two images, one above the other, in a single Academy ratio frame, on a single strip, and needed only one projector fitted with a special lens. This so-called over-under technique eliminated the need for dual projector setups and produced widescreen but darker, less vivid, polarized 3D images. Unlike the earlier dual system, it could stay in perfect synchronization unless improperly spliced and repaired. Arch Oboler once again had the vision for the system that no one else would touch, and put it to use on his film entitled The Bubble, which starred Michael Cole, Deborah Walley, and Johnny Desmond. As with Banana Devil, critics panned the Bubble, but audiences flocked to see it, and it became financially sound enough to promote the use of the system to other studios, particularly independents, who did not have the money for expensive dual strips of their productions. In 1970, Stereovision, a new entity founded by director/inventor Alan Silifant and optical designer Chris Condon, developed a different 35mm single strip format, which printed two images squeezed side by side and used an anamorphic lens to widen the markets. To widen the pictures, no, anamorphic lens to widen the pictures through Polaroid filters. Louis K. Sherpix, and Stereovision released a softcore sex comedy, The Stewardess, self-rated X, but later re-rated R by the MPAA. The film costed $100,000 to produce, and it ran for months into several markets, eventually earning $27 million in North America. Alone, $140 million in constant 2010 dollars, and this article was made in 2010, and fewer than 800 theaters, becoming the most profitable 3D dimension film to date. And in purely relative terms, one of the most profitable films ever. So, a softcore sex comedy. Wow, that's the most profitable 3D film, until Avatar, of course. It was released in 70mm 3D. Some 36 films worldwide were made in Stereovision over 25 years, either using widescreen, above, below, anamorphic, side by side, or 70mm 3D formats. In 2009, The Stewardess was remastered by Chris Condon and director Ed Meyer, re-releasing it in X-Pan D, 3D, Real D Cinema, and Dolby 3D. The quality of the 70s 90 3D films was not much more inventive, as many were either softcore or even hardcore adult films. Horror films were a combination of both. Paul Morrissey's Flesh for Frankenstein, aka Wendy Warrow's Frankenstein, was a superlative example of such a combination. So basically it was like tits and ass, or monsters. I mean, people would probably want to see some TNA in 3D. If it was nice to look at, I guess. Between 1981 and 1983, there was a new Hollywood 3D craze started by the spaghetti western Coming At Ya. When Parasite was released, it was billed as the first horror film to come out in 3D in over 20 years. Horror movies and reissues of the 1950s 3D classics, such as Hitchcock's Dial M for Murder, dominated 3D releases that followed. The second sequel to the Friday the 13th series, Friday the 13th Part 3, was released very successfully, apparently saying the Part 3 in 3D was considered too cumbersome, so it was shortened in the titles of Jaws 3D, Amityville 3D, which emphasized off-the-screen effects to the point to being annoying at times, especially when flashlights are shown at the eyes of the audience. I think it'd be cool. I think it'd be interesting. I wouldn't consider it annoying. I would just, because I got some anaglyph versions of the films off a torrent, Jaws 3D and Amityville 3D, and it's able to. I mean, there's a clip on YouTube which was released by this guy who underground 3D films, And he used to sell, you know, 3D version, you know, 3D, this, you know, really more updated version of Jaws 3D and 3D on DVD, but he stopped selling them. I guess he stopped using PayPal, and that was like 3 years ago, which was sad because the 3D effects on that video are amazing. It was like really good. And if you saw Jaws 3D and you saw that type of effect, you'd be like, that was really good. That was because Jaws 3D was made for to be seen in 3D. The fact that it's released in 2D, you know, it's not really helping. You know, people who saw it in theater were disappointed when it came on VHS. Like, why isn't this in 3D? I saw this in 3D. Why can't I see it in 3D? Because I don't know how they would make a 3D VHS. Might be the same way they make a 3D DVD or VHD or Laserdisc or CC. So Amityville 3D, and I saw that again, and I got that one, and I like what I did is, because I have the Jaws 3D anaglyph sort of version, and these glasses work okay. I don't know if I need the red and green ones, but anyway, I used it on my flat screen. It wasn't working on my TV in my room, so I used it on our new flat screen, and automatically the colors adjusted themselves, and the 3D effect worked okay. And I think the problem with the Jaws 3D, you know, version that I got off some Japanese Laserdisc kind of format, is because it's so old. You know, it's so old, and it's an out-of-date format. The quality just isn't that good. Kind of dark. But it's watchable. You can see the 3D effect, like in the beginning of the opening credits. The opening credits are coming out of the screen. It was pretty cool. I watched part of it. I haven't watched the whole thing in 3D, and I want to do that. But Amityville 3D, I watched that again in 3D. I uploaded it on one of my channels, and I was able to figure out with YouTube's 3D. There was moments where it worked, and there was like some in-your-face type stuff. The glass is going at my, you know, there's glass at the end of the movie when the house is going crazy. You know, there's shards of glass flying at you, and I'm trying to dodge it and stuff. It was cool. I gotta say, Jaws 3D, I enjoy Jaws a lot. I enjoy Jaws 3 a lot. Dennis Quaid's great in it. It's a fun movie. It's kind of a B movie, but it's got a good cast. It's got a good underrated score. It's a lot of fun to me. I don't have any problem with Jaws 3D. I don't think it's that bad. It made some money. It made $83 million worldwide. I think it made like $50 million in the US. So it wasn't. I mean, if you just click on this link here. So basically, it's a VHD video disc system, which is sort of like Laserdisc. It required a special 3D VHD player, or standard VHD player with a separate hardware adapter, and a set of LCD glasses shuttered the viewer's eyes. Sensio 3D HDVD of Jaws 3D? Huh? What the fuck is Sensio 3D? But a Sensio 3D processor is needed for 3D version. Huh. But this is crazy. TV3 in Malaysia, freaking Malaysia, got a hold of a copy of the original Aravision original copy from 1983 and released it on TV in 2001. It was a heavily advertised event, and it said like, buy anaglyph glasses to enjoy the film. Wow. Jaws 3, it opened in more than 1,000 screens across the U.S. There were many promotions to accompany release of the film. As with Jaws 2, Topps created a series of trading cards. It'd be kind of cool to have. Television stations were encouraged to broadcast the featurette Making of Jaws 3, Sharks Don't Die, in a primetime slot between July 16th and July 22nd in 1903 to take advantage of the advertisement of the week's issue of TV Guide. Alan Landsberg Productions found itself in trouble for using 90 seconds of footage from National Geographic's 1903 documented the sharks as a featurette without authorization. The score was done by Alan Parker, and I thought he did a good job. And it was actually his first feature score. But he did a really good job for his first feature score. Especially I like the opening credits theme. But that's, yeah, there's a documentary. It's on YouTube. Making of Jaws 3D. Why isn't that on the DVD? Box office, the film grossed $13 million on its opening weekend, playing to over 1,000 theaters in its widest release. Has achieved a total lifetime worldwide gross of $87 million. Despite being number one at the box office, it illustrates the series' diminishing return since Jaws 3D earned nearly $100 million less than the total lifetime gross of its predecessor, and $300 million less than the original film. Yeah, so it wasn't the big giant box office hit that Jaws was. Were you expecting it? It's the second sequel. Or Jaws 2, because it didn't have Roy Scheider. But it made money. So I don't understand why the DVD has jack shit. Like, at least give us an option to have the regular version of the film and a 3D version. That would be really cool. There's only a trailer on it. That's it. So basically, Linda Aronson, a lot of people, just critics didn't like it. They did not like Jaws 3. In her screenwriting textbook, Linda Aronson suggested that this protagonist played by Quaid is a major problem with the film. She says after taking too long for him to be introduced, character is essentially a passive onlooker. There's no hunt until the climax, when the shark is terrorizing people in the aquarium. All he does is Mike Brody becomes the center of the action. So I don't even really care. I mean, I thought they introduced him pretty soon. They had a little intro in the beginning, with the shark, going how it got into the SeaWorld, basically. I thought they introduced him pretty freaking quick in the film. I don't know what film she's watching. I like Jaws 3. Jaws 3D. I would love to see it in 3D and in a really good version of 3D. It'd be a lot of fun, like that version that I saw on YouTube. It'd be a lot of fun. I find this movie fun. It's like a guilty pleasure of mine, I'll admit it. It's not that bad. So, Amityville 3D, though, just going over these films that were released in 83. It was just like the year of 83. It's like 83 came along and there was just like a shit ton of, 3D films. Of course, Coming At You was first, and then you had, Parasite, Demi Moore. There was basically a 3D release of this film, but it's only on DVD in the UK on a 2-disc special edition of this film, because people in the UK like the movie a lot. It made $6 million, so it didn't do that great. I don't mind I know I said in my other review, I hated the film, it's a piece of shit. But I gotta be honest, I watched it again in the 3D version. It's not that bad. I guess it's another guilty pleasure. Especially the 3D version was entertaining. They used the 3D effects to really well, the in-your-face type effects. There's the one with the flies attacked that old guy. You could see the fly buzzing around in your face. There's one that these kids are throwing frisbee around. I thought the frisbee was gonna hit me in the face. It was like, whoa, trying to dodge it. So like I was saying before, when the glass is, going and the house is going crazy, all this stuff is going in your face and stuff is sort of cool. But I thought what would be really better, and they didn't film it this way, but it would be epic. When that demon comes out of the well and like shoots a fireball at that guy, the investigator dude. Imagine it if the demon comes out of the well and it's in 3D in your face, and then it shoots a fireball, and it's fireballs in 3D, and you're like, oh, you're like, I just got burned, and you're like, ah, and you're like, oh shit. Maybe that's what it was like. Maybe what its effect was like in the theater, but it didn't work on the YouTube 3D thing very well. And then you could have like you're still freaked out, like thinking you just got burned by a giant fireball, and then the guy's face turns around and he's all burnt, and you got like flesh hanging off. It was like you're like It would be good. So basically, the movie's not really a sequel. It was the only Orion Pictures film filmed in 3D. Due to a lawsuit between the Lutz family and DeAndre Laurentiis between the storyline, which did not involve the Lutz family, Amityville 3D was not called a sequel. Basically, the character John Baxter is sort of loosely based on Stephen Kaplan, who at the time was trying to prove Lutz's story was a hoax, and it ended up being a hoax. So, you have some really good performances. You have Tony Roberts is okay, Tess Harper's alright, Candy Clark is good, Lori Laughlin, hot. Meg Ryan's okay. The music's okay. It's definitely a lot better watching in 3D, probably. But it's watchable. It's one of the more watchable Amityville sequels. So, yeah. So basically, then there was also another one. You had the science fiction film Adventures in Spacehunter Adventures in Forbidden Zone, was the most expensive 3D movie made up at that point, with production costs about the same as Star Wars, but not nearly the same box office success, causing the craze to fade quickly through the spring of 1983. Other sci-fi fantasy films were released as well, including Metal Storm, Destruction of Jared Sin, and Treasure of the Four Crowns, which was widely criticized for poor editing and plot holes, but did feature some truly spectacular close-ups. 3D releases after a second craze included Man Who Wasn't There, which is a movie I've been trying to track down because it sounds interesting. Steve Guttenberg, I think, as like an Invisible Man. Yeah, Steve Guttenberg. The Guttenberg as an Invisible Man. Basically, he's a State Department employee who finds an egg-shaped device with a green fluid inside it that makes the person who drinks it invisible. He finds himself being chased by foreign agents who want the substance. That's basically the synopsis of the plot. I can't find it anywhere. Sounds interesting. It might be total shit, but it's got the Gutenberg. It's got the Gut, and it just might be good. Silent Madness is another one, and the last one was 1985. In 1985, you had Star Chaser: The Legend of Orion, which is borrowed a lot from Star Wars, but I had a lot of fun with Star Chaser. Star Chaser is like a film. If you like Fire and Ice, I think you'd really enjoy it. It's got a good hard rock soundtrack, 80s hard rock soundtrack. It's got some dark tones to it. There's one sequence where Orion shows up and there's like these robot cyborg, sort of, they used to be human maybe, but they're talking about, look, we need your flesh. You want to give us your flesh? So basically what they do is they harvest people's flesh. Kind of dark. I haven't seen it in a while, but I remember enjoying Star Chaser. Plus the name's badass. Star Chaser. So I guess only coming at ya, Parasite and Friday the 13th Part 3 have been officially released on VHS and are on DVD in 3D in the United States. Huh. So Parasite's on 3D? It's in 3D in the United States? And so is Coming At Ya? Should probably try to track this down. That might be kind of fun. Although Amityville 3D is seen a 3D DVD release in the United Kingdom, most of the 1980s 3D movies and some of the classic 1950 movies House of Wax were released on the now defunct video disc format. VHD format in Japan is part of a system that uses shutter glasses. Most of these have been unofficially transferred to DVD and are available on the gray market through such sites as eBay. Rebirth to 3D, 1985 says 2003. So basically what happened is Spacehunter killed it. It was starting to come back and the Spacehunter just flopped. Although I really do like Spacehunter. I think it's one of the more underrated sci-fi films of the 80s. A lot of fun. Peter Strauss is a good lead. Nice to see Molly Ringwald, in a role in a sci-fi film. It's also Michael Ironside plays a great villain, Overdog. Good effects on that effects work on Overdog as well. And young Ernie Hudson cooking some ass. And a great score. I like Spacehunter. So it would have been kind of cool to see that in 3D. Rebirth to 3D, which is, I guess they're saying like it's an 85, but it really didn't do that much in terms of in theaters anyway. In the mid-1980s, IMAX began producing non-fiction films for its nascent 3D business, starting with We Are Born of the Stars. A key point was that this production, as well as subsequent IMAX productions, emphasized mathematical correctness of the 3D rendition, and thus largely eliminated eye fatigue and pain resulting from approximate geometries of previous 3D incarnations. In addition, and in contrast to previous 35mm based 3D presentations, a very large field of view provided by IMAX allowed a much broader 3D stage, arguably as important as in 3D film as it is in the theater. In 1986, Disney theme parks and Universal Studios began to use 3D films from press audiences in special venues. Captain EO, the Michael Jackson sci-fi movie directed by Francis Ford Coppola, is a very notable example. In the same year, the National Film Board of Canada production Transitions, graded for Expo 86 in Vancouver, was the first IMAX presentation using polarized glasses. Echoes of the Sun was the first IMAX film to be presented using alternate eye shutter glass technology, a development required because a dome screen provided the use of polarized technology. A dome screen? Isn't IMAX just like a regular theater? No. It's just something... See, IMAX... first started out in places like OMSI and science centers. Like OMSI is a big science center, like museum in Oregon, in Portland. And I remember the IMAX theater. That's what the IMAX was, the dome. It got kind of unsettling. You sit there in the dome and stare at it. Really cool when you saw some like documentaries and stuff. But then like in the 2000s, IMAX started showing movies in IMAX. It just didn't work. They showed, literally in the dome IMAX. I saw episode 2 in the dome IMAX. It was just wrong. Yoda was using, all the lightsabers looked like bananas. It just was disorientating. So I guess basically from 1990 onward, numerous films were produced by all three parties to satisfy demands of their various high-profile special attractions to IMAX's expanding 3D network. Films of special note during this period include the extremely successful Into the Deep, and the first IMAX 3D fiction film, Wings of Courage, by director Jean-Jacques Arnaud and the pilot Enrico Lumet. So basically there's a bunch of other stereoscopic 3D films here. And then, of course, you had Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare, which had the last sequence in 3D. That was like the only film in the theaters for years until 2003. That basically, other than something you'd see at IMAX theater somewhere or at a theme park, the only thing that was in 3D was that last little sequence at the end of Freddy's Dead. So 3D was pretty much dead for a while, except in terms of being in theaters. I know you had T2 3D Battle Across Time, which is really good. I saw it. It was a great experience. 3D looked great, and still looks great to this day. So that's a good example of a theme park, 3D done right. So basically the mainstream resurgence right now, right where we're at, 2003 to the present. In 2003, Ghost of the Abyss by James Cameron was a documentary about, I think we were looking for a Titanic, or was it one where they go in underwater and look for stuff, and was released as the first full-length 3D IMAX feature film, the reality camera system. The camera system used the latest HD video cameras, not film. It was built by Cameron by Vince Pace to his specifications. The same camera system was used to film Spy Kids 3D Game Over, Aliens of the Deep, and The Adventures of Shark Boy and Lava Girl in 3D. In 2004, Las Vegas Hilton released the Star Trek Experience, which included 2 films. One of the films, Borg Invasion 4D, was in 3D. August of the same year, rap group Insane Clown Posse released their 9th studio album, Hell's Pit. One of the 2 versions of the album contained a DVD featuring a 3D short film for the track Bowling Balls, shot in high-definition video. I've always wanted to go to the Star Trek Experience, and I'm not really like a big Trekkie. It just sounds really cool to see the Borg up front and in your face. It'd be really cool, actually. In November 2004, The Polar Express was released as IMAX's first full-length animated 3D picture. It was released in 3,584 theaters in 2D and only 66 IMAX locations. The return from those few 3D theaters is about 25% of the total. The 3D version earned about 14 times as much per screen as the 2D version. This pattern continued and promptly greatly intensified interest in 3D and presentation animated films. So basically, James Cameron, yes, he might say, I'm the one that brought 3D back and made it popular again. Really, it's Robert Zemeckis. We used the Polar Express. Kids and parents saw it. The 3D was effective. They liked it. They wanted more. It had been gone and dead for a while, and they're using different. Now it wasn't just these type of glasses. You didn't have to cross your eyes to see the effect. You could just put on glasses and enjoy it again. That was the whole. I guess that was the whole trying. That was what they're trying to do. In June 2005, Mann's Chinese Theater in Hollywood became the first commercial movie theater to be equipped with digital 3D format. Both Singing in the Rain and Polar Express were tested in a digital 3D format in the course of several months. In November 2005, Walt Disney Studio Entertainment released Chicken Little in digital 3D format. The Butlers in Love, a short film directed by Anders Larson and starring Elizabeth Berkley and Thomas Jane, was released on June 3, 2008. The film was shot at the former Industrial Light and Magic Studios during current FX prototype Cam stereoscopic camera rig. Ben Wassler suggests that both filmmakers and film exhibitors regain interest in 3D film. There are now more 3D exhibition experiments, more dramatic films being shot in 3D format. One incentive is that the technology is more mature. Shooting in 3D format is less limited, the results more stable. Another incentive is the fact that 2D ticket sales are in an overall state of decline, revenues from 3D tickets and continue to grow. Basically because you're scamming people out of the money, and I'll get into that soon enough. Though through the entire history of 3D presentations, techniques to convert existing 2D images for 3D presentation have existed. Few have been effective or survived. The combination of digital and digitized source material with relatively cost-effective digital post-processing has spawned a new wave of conversion products. In June 2006, IMAX and Warner Bros. Released Superman Returns, including 20 minutes of 3D images converted from the 2D original digital footage. George Lucas has announced that he will re-release the Star Wars films in 3D. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, yes, he released the Star Wars films in 3D. Episode 1, that's the first one you're going to release. Didn't do very well. Shouldn't have done that. I don't want to see Episode 1 in 3D. And I heard there wasn't even that much it was even in 3D. See what I'm saying by scam? I guess in late 2005, Steven Spielberg told the press he was involved in patenting a 3D system that does not need glasses and which is based on plasma screens. A computer splits each film frame and projects 2 split images on the screen at different angles to be picked up by the tiny angled ridges on the screen. Where is that technology? Because it just isn't anywhere right now. That was in 2005. I guess you had in May 19, 2007, Scar 3D opened at the Cannes film market. It was the first U.S. produced 3D full-length feature film to be completed in Real D 3D. It has been the #1 film at the box office in several countries around the world, including Russia, where it opened in 3D on 295 screens. Wow, so Scar 3D really does have some sort of historic significance. Never saw it. Of course, My Bloody Valentine 3D was the first horror film and the first R-rated film to project in Real D 3D. And did really good. And I liked it. I had a lot of fun with that. It's not the same experience, though, on TV. You have to have the TV that works right. I haven't tried it on my flat screen. If it works well, I'll know. But it doesn't work well on my TV. In my room. So there's a whole bunch of other 3D movies, you know, yeah, all this kind of stuff. Okay, so I don't... Alright, so that's basically the history of 3D. That's a risk perspective. And now I'm going to tell you my thoughts, my final thoughts on 3D. And basically, we'll talk about 3D right now. 3D right now is become less of a gimmick, and less of a fun thing, and more of a scam. Hollywood knows that, you know, you want 3D. Be cool. Oh, 3D, oh, cool, in-depth, you know, perception, really cool stuff in my face. I can grab it. But the problem is, there are so many movies now that are just being released in 3D just to make an extra money. Because the extra $3 on the ticket price, or $5 or whatever. And there's not even that much 3D sequences to even run home about. It's like, they're releasing films that are in semi-3D. They're lying to you. As something that says 3D, like Ghost Rider 2, or countless of other films that were supposedly released in 3D, Clash of the Titans, the first film, and only certain sequences are in 3D. The rest of the film, there are times you could lift your glasses up, and you're like, this isn't even 3D. It's pointless. Why would I want to waste my time with that? And the biggest problem, in my opinion, is Avatar. Avatar was such a big hit and made so much money. And because it made so much money, they realized, oh, 3D is cool. We got to do it. Every movie has to be in 3D now. But the difference between Avatar and these other films that came out after it are that Avatar was filmed in 3D. So everything in that film was in 3D. I gotta admit, it was a spectacle. It was a wonder to behold in the theater, seeing Avatar. It was a grand experience. It was like you were transported to another world. Like you literally were there. That's why people went and saw it multiple times. But after you get through that experience and you see the movie on your TV at home, it's not the same. 2D Avatar, you realize the flaws. You realize that the story isn't very good. It's basically like a ride. It's like a theme park ride. You went on this ride and it was fun and made you feel good afterwards. But is it life changing? Is it something you're going to remember for the rest of your life? No. It's just a fun one-time thing. You're like, oh, cool, wow, I can touch these are so realistic. People went back and saw Avatar multiple times just for the experience of being in another world, of being on another planet. That's pretty much why they went and saw it multiple times. It wasn't for the story, it wasn't for the action. It was for that experience. And the experience was well done. I gotta give props to James Cameron and the companies. They did a good job with the 3D effects. It really was immersive. It really was like you were transported to another world. It's not the same on your TV. Even I've seen, the little promos. I've seen gone to stores and checked it out in 3D on their TV that you can look at. It's not the same. So you can't recreate that experience unless you're rich and own a freaking big screen TV or own your own movie theater. You can't really recreate the same experience that you had when you saw Avatar in the theater, because that's an IMAX theater and in 3D. Unless you own an IMAX 50-foot big screen and a 3D projector, you're not going to get the same experience. It's not even going to be the same. So, because of Avatar's ridiculous success, companies just started slapping 3D on everything, and it just honestly it's getting tiresome. It's like what happened in the 50s. Audiences got tired of it. And I'm tired of it. I'm fucking tired of it. Because it's kind of like a technology they're not using properly. Just like Blu-ray. If you're going to make a Blu-ray, if you have this technology like Blu-ray that has all this space for stuff and you're not using it, sort of the same thing as 3D. If you're going to have a technology like 3D and you update it and you made so many strides, but you're not going to use it properly. You're just going to release a film, post-convert it digitally, after you already filmed the film in 2D, and you're just going to post-convert it digitally and make some sequences 3D, and every sequence is just going to be 2D. So what you're just selling us is semi-3D. I wouldn't have an issue if Hollywood just released movies and had these when you go to the movie box office, it says, for example, The Avengers in semi-3D. Then you wouldn't be lying to me. Because if you're telling me it's in 3D, and I go and see it, and there's only a couple sequences that are in 3D, and the rest of it's 2D, and it's not even... And if you're going to show me a 3D movie, you have to make it worth the ticket price. To make it worth the extra $3. Because 3D, when it's done right, is an amazing experience. It's immersive. It's stunning. It blows your mind. You see stuff, you're like, oh my god, it's right there in my face. I can touch it. You react to things that you think are coming at you, and they're not. And it's just a natural thing. You're like, it's fake, but your body doesn't, and it's fun. It's like a thrill ride. It's entertaining. It really is one of a kind experience if it's done right. But the problem is, more often than not, it's not being done right. It's being half-assed. So, if you're just going to be half-assed with it, this technology, if you're not going to use it to the full potential, then don't use it. That's what I'm saying. It's like, I hate it when you have technology like this, like 3D or Blu-ray or all these other things, and you're not using it to its full potential. You're just half-assing it. That's what Hollywood is doing with 3D. They're overdoing it, and they're half-assing it. They're scamming us. They're scamming you out of your money, out of your extra $3 or $5 for like a couple sequences or a few sequences are in 3D, the rest of the movie's in 2D. So because of Avatar's success, other people are just going crazy over 3D, and they're not doing it properly. Avatar was a success because James Cameron, I don't like the film, and I don't like some of the things he said lately, but he did the 3D right. He did it right. He did it the way it's supposed to be. But these other movies that came after, Clash of the Titans, that were just seemed rushed, and it just didn't work. It's like, I could care less. And more often than not, you're seeing these these people online writing these articles saying, should you see it in 3D or not in 3D? Most of the time you're saying not. So don't spend the extra money. Okay, maybe if we stop spending more money on these 3D, start going just see the movie in regular 2D, then we won't see this overabundance of 3D films. Because this is even worse than in the 50s. They had a few films here and there, but it was a boom. But they actually took time and care. In the 80s, they took time and care, but then it fell out, died off in '83 after Spacehunter flopped. But maybe if Avatar had not made as much money, maybe we wouldn't be stuck in this 3D hell right now. But we're stuck in it. We got to deal with it. Every movie, it seems like every goddamn blockbuster film that's coming out nowadays has to be in 3D. So now you run into the problem. And this is another issue I have with 3D. You run into the problem now where you have to have one 2D version of the film and one 3D version of the film, which takes up twice as much space. So little small films like The Raid are not going to show up in your theater near you because you have to make room for the other version, 3D version of the film. So, you know, you got the Lorax, so you have the 3D, you got to make room for the 3D version of Lorax, you also got to make room for the 2D version. So there's no room for the small competition. You have to make more room for the 3D version and the 2D version at the same time. It's just stupid. I understand. I probably want to see the 2D. And I like the fact they're giving us option. But it's the fact that the reason why we have to do that is because there's so much oversaturation of 3D movies that we have to. We just don't have, the Hollywood and movie theaters have no choice. So basically, you know, to end this, you know, to basically cap off this video, 3D is a great technology. It's really cool and innovative. It's one of the one of the coolest inventions, you know, out there. But like I'm saying, studios keep half-assing it and make, you know, movies that are only none of the stuff that's in your face or as immersive as Avatar or these other films. Not even as immersive as Jaws 3. And you basically get half-assed stuff, 3D effects, that are about the same as when you pick up a book that's in 3D. Oh, look, the image is popping out of me, cool. But it's nothing that's, you know, it's not this grand experience. It's not worth the extra money. So, basically, they're taking money. It's like, you know, Hollywood, they're robbing us. They're robbing us blind with this 3D stuff. They know they're getting a quick buck. Just slap 3D on it, you know, votes convert it digitally later, and there we go. We earn extra money. It's just like, stop. It's like taking candy from a baby. They're just stealing money right from underneath our noses. So basically, I'm not gonna let Hollywood take my money anymore. I'm gonna, you know, unless you start using 3D and using it properly, the way it's supposed to be, and not half-assing it, I don't give a fuck. So that's basically my opinion. I don't give a fuck about 3D. I would honestly rather see it die off again and then come back again for, you know, 20 years later or so, and then it'll be fresh again. Because right now it's just getting old, stale, and it's just getting tiresome. Just like my eyes. So it's like your eyes get tired when, you know, you wear these freaking glasses for an hour. Anyway, thanks for watching this long video, this special little video thing, and I hope you found it informative. I hope you found it interesting. I hope you found it entertaining. If you thought it was boring, okay, alright. But I thought it would be a good idea. And if you like this video, then I'll look forward to another video like this I'm going to do. It's called VHS, a retrospective. And basically not only just VHS, I think I might call it, I don't know what exactly, I was going to VHS retrospective, but I kind of want to mention and talk about all of basically home video. It's going to be, next time I'm going to talk about, you know, the origins of home video format. You know, the first ever origins, like 8mm, 16mm clips of movies. Then you go into VHS and beta and Laserdisc and CD. Basically talk about old school video formats, and then go up to DVD, how it got created, and who, you know, basically history of home video. Yeah, that's a hit. Next time it's the history of home video. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Peace.